Hey you guys, I want to talk about, and just real quick, some old news. Old now, when we allowed Iran to now sell their oil. And then everybody freaked out. Now, these sanctions, I don't believe they should get one dime of those ever, because when you have your sanctions taken from you, because you were being bad, when you're now being good, doesn't mean we sit them over there and hold them for you for when you're good and then you get them all. No, it's a consequence. You were bad, you never get them again. They should go back to America. They should have all kinds of guardrails and what do they call it? Accountability partners to keep anyone from pocketing a little bit of it. And it is, manned by several not organizations, but several officials, many officials, to make sure no one pockets any of it and it just gets absorbed back into America. Okay, so the oil. So they're using some sanctions to feed the Iranians because nobody knows what's going on in Iran, but their economy has collapsed. So I'm sure there might be some food issues, but nobody knows. So we're going to use that money to pay America, pay American farmers, which is good. And then we've got to pay to ship it over there, which is fine. So, but still, it remains that Iran gets to sell their oil. And people were upset about that. But when I first heard that, immediately I knew that if you threaten Iran, if they're bad, they're gonna get hit. If they're good, if they're good, which they won't be. But if you don't give somebody, Iran, something to test them with, oil being sold, how are you ever going to know if they're being good? How are you going to ever know that? You'll never know that until you test them. I heard J.D. Vance, he has said some bad things. I've heard that they're just testing him to see if they're trying to get him out, or however the term is. But he is not a Republican at all. He's not a Christian agenda type, because anybody who accuses Israel of bombing the hell out of people that are innocent is retarded. So, and every other weird shit he says. So, but if you don't give Iran, or I'm not even going to say Iran, if you don't give those murderers an opportunity, because I did hear J.D. Vance say that they have all kinds of guardrails on. They know where their money goes. They know what they're spending it on. They know this, and they know everything about every dollar that leaves Iran. That's what he said. So if you don't allow them to test that, now America, we've let them have some oil. They're making what, like $5 billion a week? Well, they were losing supposedly $5 million a day. But now all of a sudden they're making so much more than they used to be making. Like if it's $5 billion a week, well, that's because I don't know anything about that kind of stuff, but I think it's because they're making so much more because that's sanction free, number one, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm doing this correctly, but number two, it's American dollars. That means something too. So because American dollars are more valuable, it's going to appear to be a lot more. Okay, so let's go back then to the testing. So how are you ever going to know if they're going to behave and what to hit them with if you don't give them the opportunity to be good? What are they going to be good with? How are you going to test them if they're going to be good? Which they're not. I'm just using their stupid terminology with their stupid deal. They're not good. But if you don't let them sell that oil, How are you going to know where they put that money, what they buy with that money, what they do with that money? Because any of that money that leaves Iran, none of that money should leave Iran, if you ask me, unless they got to go import some food, and then should be a receipt. There's got to be a receipt where that money went. But then, of course, you got to know, you got to find out, because it's not foolproof. If any money leaves Iran and they supposedly know where it went, well, what if the bad guy where they sent it is in cahoots and they say, oh, we didn't give them any weapons. We didn't sell them weapons. We sold them some glue. I mean, who knows? So yes, that is kind of risky. But how do you know where the loopholes are that they're going to try to find, unless you give them the opportunity to show their ass? Okay, so that's about it. And I just wanted to go back to the Catholic thing. I told you about the Parable Channel and how they explain all this, but, speaking to my ex the other day, he's Catholic, and I don't know what topic we're talking about, but I've told him things before, but he don't care. So anyway, when Jesus was on the cross, that sign above his head, his blessed head, his crown of thorns and everything, it was in 3 languages. And then we know the Bible is written in 3 languages. What are those languages? It's Hebrew, the native tongue of the Jews, which Jesus spoke. Jesus spoke all languages because he's God, but so it's Hebrew. And Jesus is a rabbi, he's a teacher, so he also spoke Aramaic because that's the language of the day for, I guess, the Jews. I don't know where Aramaic came from or comes from. It's not Arabic, it's Aramaic. So, and then there was Greek because the Romans. So when the Bible was written by the Jews, it was the Old Testament, and all the prophets were written in Hebrew. When the disciples started writing the New Testament is written in Aramaic and some Greek. So how do you think Latin came about? Have you ever thought of that? Yeah, there should be no holy texts written in Latin. Now, how do you think that happened? It's because in the 4th century, when Rome attacked Jerusalem, the temple, they took everything. They took everything. And they translated those texts, those holy texts, into their own language, Latin. And then guess who got hold of that? The Catholics. The Roman Catholics. And the Roman Catholics are all in prophecy. Okay? If you watch those Parable Channel, the 2 videos that explain the Bible and the Catholics and the Jews and how it all messed up, there's at the bottom of Mount Sinai, there's the oldest library in the world, pretty much, guess, kind of, by some monks, Saint something, and those holds all original ancient texts. It's in Egypt. So this jerk some Catholic creep who is playing both sides, he went to that monastery and he stole some stuff and he rearranged it, and now it's the Catholic text. But that was way after Jerusalem, the second temple, got destroyed. So, I don't know how to describe this stuff. I barely understand it myself, but I pick up key things. And that is the fact that the original Jewish texts got corrupted. Not that we're reading corruption. I'm not saying that at all, because God always works around the devil. The devil's always trying and working overtime, but he's spinning his wheels. He might get a dig in and get successful every now and then, but God always is saving people off of corrupted texts or something. But I just want to point that out, that the Catholics need to take Jesus off the cross, because that's heresy. I don't know why exactly, but you know, they're just always twisting stuff. So it's the Catholics and the Protestants. The Protestants are branched off into all kinds of denominations. We call them denominations, and it's just because we don't really agree about what the Catholics did. You know, we came to America because we don't want Catholicism running us anymore. They were running everything. They were running the government, just like they were doing all their lives, doing this shit. So we came over here to America to get away from that. And I mean, Martin Luther and both. Catholics are their own, and they get it from the Jews, and they've twisted it. And they believe in Jesus, yeah. But, and you know, even if the Jews are going to dead man's bones to worship at those graves, I'm not saying they get possessed. Catholics, yeah, they'll get possessed by doing that shit, but not the Jews. Jews, if that's what they do, because I watch Rabbi Alana Nava, and on special holy times, he will say this to Rabbi from the past. And it's kind of like praying to a dead rabbi and a dead saint. And I know the Catholics get it from them. But the Jews, that's different. That is an ancient way of doing things. And Jesus, when he came to earth, he knew they were doing that. And he never said, don't do that. He was just saying, pointing out what they do. And it's one thing if you're doing that hypocritically, and that's what he was pointing out. But if you're doing that not hypocritically, he didn't say that that's a bad thing. See, that wasn't what he was pointing out. In other words, he wasn't pointing that out. He wasn't saying, yeah, you Jews, you worship dead people and call them saints and stuff. That wasn't his point. That's not what he was pointing out. So the Jews have a different culture that way. That is, they don't get possessed by praying to their old rabbis and their dead prophets. That's a Jewish thing, and that is okay. I don't understand what it means and where it fits into the culture of, I mean, whatever. But the Jews are the Jews. They're all different. They are okay. They are okay. Everything they do is okay. It's the Catholics. Christians the Jews have a high standard they have to live up to, yes. The Christians have a different standard they have to live up to. Okay? That's my point. That's my point. The Jews do what the Jews do in their religion, and they must live up to whatever the standard is over there. When you become a Christian, either from being a Jew or being a Gentile, whatever, if you're a Christian, you have to live up to a certain standard, and it's not worshiping dead saints. That is a Catholic thing, and that is a Christian. See, my ex will say this. He'll say, well, that's the original religion. I won't know it's not. The Jews are the original religion. See, he's always trying to say stupid shit, and I'll poke a hole in it, and then he's like, so I was saying the other night, I'm like, Latin, that was no Latin up there. It's from the Romans, the corrupted Romans, okay? And I forgot what I was saying, but the Catholics are the first Christian No, the disciples, the Jewish disciples, are the very first Christian, non-Catholic religion. That's the first of the Christian religion. And the Catholics killed all the Jews because they wouldn't convert, and the Catholics killed all of the Protestants. We were Protestants. The original Protestants were the disciples: Peter, Paul, James, all of them. Those were the original church, the original Christians. They were all Jews. Maybe some Greeks. You'll read about Greeks being Christians in the Bible, in the New Testament. So they weren't all Jews. And then there were also 70 disciples. So that's the original Christianity. That's the original Christianity. This Catholicism rose after the Second Temple got destroyed. And they were trying to find a new way to control the Jews and the Christians they didn't like, the Christian Jews. You know, the Christian Jews that believed in Jesus. They killed all them. They killed all the other Jews that wouldn't convert to Catholicism. So, you know, maybe that's why they keep Jesus on the cross, because they're a bloody religion. I don't know. But I'm not here to bash. I'm talking about the Vatican, really. It's the Vatican teaches all this. And it's just what it is. God allowed it to go on. And God allows it to go on to this day. And I don't care if I offend anybody. I'm not here to, you know, shine anybody on, or whatever the term, you know, pat you on the ass or pat you on the head and say, you're okay. No, you're not okay. It's not okay what you do when Catholics do this. And you need to know your history. You need to know the Protestant history. You need to know all sides before you choose. Because I know a Christian, she converted to Judaism. And yeah, so anyway, just remember that about what I'm saying about, and yeah, the Jews, I'm not saying, they get possessed, but an original Christian calling themselves a Catholic who is not an original Christian. The Jewish disciples were the original Christians, and then this Catholicism arose, and because they stole all the texts, they knew nothing about Christianity because they didn't read the Bible. They knew nothing about the Jewish disciples. They killed them all. They killed them all. They killed all the Jews that wouldn't convert. So then they took all those texts and they had to twist them around to make it look the way they wanted, and to get their own followers to be only Catholic, you see? So they are not the oldest Christian religion, and they adopted because they were reading all the texts, like the Mishnah and whatever other books they have. And they were reading it all, and they go, oh, well, the Jews kind of go visit these saints over, these rabbis, these prophets that are dead. So I guess we need to do that. When they were rewriting the Hebrew and the Aramaic and the Greek. And that's why it's written in Greek also. The New Testament, some is Greek, because they were Greeks that accepted Jesus as the Messiah. So see, the language of the day was Aramaic. Jesus spoke Aramaic all the time. He didn't really speak Hebrew much unless he was talking to those Pharisees, which I don't understand. Because see, Jesus healed a bunch of Jews. When you read in the New Testament, it'll sometimes say Pharisees picked up the rocks and went to stone him. Sometimes it's just plain old Jews were picking up rocks to stone him, right? So there were a lot of Jews that were against him, but yet there were a lot of Jews he healed, which the prophecies in the Old Testament foretold your Messiah would come and heal And Jesus fulfilled all that, yet they didn't want to accept it, but their eyes and ears were closed. Yet a remnant believed in Jesus because they had things, well, like the 10 lepers. One came back and thanked Jesus, and 9 did not. So there are some that Jesus healed that they didn't remain following him. When Jesus said, "Eat of my flesh and drink of my blood," a lot of people left. And Jesus asked his disciples, "Are you going to leave me too?" And they're like, "No." So it's just like today with the Gentiles. There's just going to be a few that are faithful. Same thing in Israel. Just very few are going to accept Jesus. Just like very few Jews accepted Jesus then. It's just how it is. I mean, yeah, people shouldn't be over there evangelizing Jews or here evangelizing Jews. If God leads you, I mean, I know there's ministries that's they really worry about the Jews. They're not going to hell. They're not going to hell, not one of them. Unless God made one of them that's super evil, wicked, like Soros or that Noah skinny guy, billionaire, or Epstein. They're not going to hell. Sorry, if they don't accept Jesus, they're not going to hell. They're safe. They're saved with an everlasting salvation. I mean, that says Israel is. I think it says Jews, but whatever. God even says in Romans, he explains it several ways. So I can understand a Jewish, like there's a couple of Jewish ministries that they are Jews and they do evangelize their fellow Jews over there in Israel. Let them do it. Let them do it. It's good. They can do that. They're speaking to their own, it's less offensive. Some Gentile coming up, "Hey, you need to be saved," and all these Catholics swarming Israel. That's gross. It's sad. Anyway, the world is really messed up, you guys. Like, this whole thing to me feels like a sleight of hand magic trick. The way we were getting it done and it was so close, and then this deal thing, and I was thinking all this is just, but I don't know. A part of me thinks it's still kind of a trick. Part of me thinks it's God, because it has been this way back and forth all these years. It's always just as we're getting ready, close, something is stopping it. I think God stops it. So this is repeating itself. It's again getting stopped right shy of fixing it all. But then, of course, there's many moving parts. So you have all these other terrorists in the vicinity that want a Palestinian state. You can't have both. You can't have a Palestinian state and want to do business with the Jews, Saudi Arabia. Yeah. So there's a lot of tricky crap going on over there. And like what they just did, killed some ISIS members. It's so very spread out. And if they want these Abraham Accords and Cyrus Accords, all those Middle Eastern countries are going to have to be of one like mind, that the Jews have to keep all of their land and that the Palestinians don't exist and they need to be absorbed from where they came from. They're all going to have to accept that. See? And that's another big mess, tangled up mess that who knows. So all I think this is the worst things have ever been. Not for, Israel is bad. Yeah. But God keeps them safe. I don't think any more are dying from war, as they've always been dying in war. But this is the best thing that's happened in our generation, where Trump has done all this, yes. But either this is some sleight of hand magic trick, it's very weird. Because Trump is Trump, and then he flips. Trump has never flipped until now. He has never flipped. It's God is intervening to make it stop being successful for some reason. Or because I don't think Trump can be corrupted, and I don't think Trump can flip. I think God is swaying him. And I know we don't know what God is doing, but we do know that this is the most success and headway we've ever gotten. Iran is very degraded, and everybody's getting, all the bad guys are getting killed, but we got so much corruption in the world right now. America's tasting it, but it's been going on in Europe for a long time. And then now even South Africa, I shared that post. That was disgusting what's going on in South Africa. So, and then we get this close, and then it's some loop-de-doop curveball thing, and let's put a stop to it. And anyway, I just wanted to point that out, that we have to let them sell some oil, or how are we ever going to know? How are we going to test the new deal? How are we going to test it? All this is just going to prove that they're evil, murderous, wicked Ishmael, and they'll never convert, okay? So give it up. They have a death wish. They want their false god to come, and with Jesus, by the way, and kill off all the Christians. Yeah, so kill off his own people because he's a Jew. It's evil madness. And you've got Democrats. They're not going to change. I don't care how many Republicans, for how many sets of 4 years you get in the White House president. The gates have opened. Who let the dogs out? Their maniacal agendas are in full swing, and they've been found out, and they're not going to lay down and give up. They're going to get more vicious and more vile. I said that a long time ago. They've had a taste of blood. They're going to get more vicious and more vile. I got these gigantic ants. They're just going to get more vicious and more vile, and go for the throat. They're going to go for our throat. They already said they're going after Trump and all his whole family, and then us is next. But they're going to go for the throat. And no matter how much Trump stops them this term, or even in beyond, if another Republican, they're going to find a way to go for the throat. They're not, if they have to have a civil war, I don't know. They're not going to lay down, you guys. This is going to be the worst you'll ever see the Democrats behaving in history. It will be, because they're desperate. They're like the murderers over there in the Middle East. They're a wounded wolf that is trying to get free and do what they were meant to do, which is savagely kill something. And they got their own death wish, and it's socialism and Marxism and all this, and they're going to do it. They're going to make the world a living hell until they get their way. So there's really never going to be the world as we knew it, because the genie in the bottle, so to speak, has been let out. The Pandora's box has been open, and you're never going to shove it back in there. No, you won't. It's all ending. It's all going to end. And that's good news, because the gospel of Jesus Christ is from beginning to end. God is the I am. I am Alpha. I am Omega. I am the beginning and I am the end. But no, Christians don't like thinking about end. The end of the matter is being with Jesus. But Christians don't like that part. They're too comfortable at home here. They've made this place their home. They're I'm not saying to be double-minded, but you have to be both. You have to be wanting Jesus and occupying and doing the work down here as a disciple and as a laborer and as your own occupation of your livelihood and your family and your work and stuff. So, because it's all about work. The whole Bible is about work. You don't just give birth to a baby, shove him in a corner, and never teach him how to work. Okay? These non-workers. So, you're never going to get that genie back in the bottle. It's going to end one of these days, and it's never going to be the way it was, even if we have this kind of peace, if we ever get it. If we get Iran free and Reza and all this Cyrus Accords and Abraham Accords signed and all that, the Democrats, they're going to find loopholes on how to continue to squeeze in their agendas, get their money. They never have enough money. Once they get all the government money for all the funding of the drug addicts and the homeless that they don't use for the drug addicts and the homeless and everything, then they want to tax you more because it's not enough money, and they never get anything done. They just tear everything up. Okay? And they're going to get worse, and they're going to find a way to because you got right now, you got Tucker's and JD Vance-ish. They're going to end up helping the bad Democrats along the way to corruption, because they just will. Whether they call it, oh, this is for good. Yeah, it's for good. We'll cheat a little here. I'll look the other way while you're doing it because it's for good. Because these stupid Republicans, they don't know what's good for them. You know, they're gonna find a way. And we don't even know about midterms yet. That's up to God. I think that's up to God. Like I was saying, we can pray for our desires, for the protection, for the winning, for the thwarting of the evil, but we'll never know if it's God who wants it to be that way, or if it is God testing us to pray that it will stop being that way. Because, you know, I'm sure you've noticed there's lots of things you pray for that you don't get. That means God wants it that way. Because sometimes he needs to use the bad, like he used Pharaoh. And yeah, so we don't always know if these bad things that we call them bad are really God doing it. He just wants us to pray. And if it is something that our prayers are able to change, then he'll change it. But if it's something our prayers cannot change, he won't. Because he wants the bad. Because it helps fulfill his prophecy for the end. For the end. All this whole life, from Adam and Eve all the way to the end, it is for the end. You know, Revelation was written, but how did John know all that? Because he had a revelation. He saw the vision. How did the vision know the future? It's because it's God. Because it already happened. Because God saw it happen. Jesus said, I saw Satan fall like lightning. Jesus already saw all that. And that, I was thinking of that the other night, and I was like, oh, I found the verse. I've always wondered about that. Jesus, when did you saw Satan fall from light? When did you see Satan fall like lightning? And I can't find it in Genesis, and I've heard, you know, other people say something about other things, but if I don't see it in Genesis, I don't know where it happened. So, but, oh darn, I can't remember, but I was listening to the Bible, and I'm like, oh, that's when Satan fell. And that's when Jesus, what he means by, I saw Satan fall like lightning. That was the future. That was the future. God gave John the revelation of the future because God has already seen it. God has already been there. And whatever book it was that intimates Satan falling from grace and his third of the angels, Jesus saw that already before it even happens. So the whole gospel is about Jesus and Jesus coming back to Jesus, meaning going back to be with him. And I think this is just all the beginning of the end, or it's either almost at the end. So sorry for all the choppy, stutter, whatever, not very smooth, and bunny trailing, but so it takes longer. But God bless you guys, and yeah, just keep praying. And this sure is weird, though. It's so weird how it's so obvious. The correct choice, is so obvious, but they won't take it. And either it's God doing this or shutting their eyes. Because I'll tell you, when I bought my old bug, the oil light, they brought it to me with the oil light on. Everybody knows you don't buy a car with the oil light on. Hello. Well, it was an old bug. I bought the car with the oil light on. God shielded my eyes. Because it turns out it was just had the wrong oil in it. It needs 40 weight, straight 40 weight. Straight 40 weight. It's hard to find back then. Well, so all it needed was straight 40 weight oil, and the oil. So God is shielding their eyes from the good choice for a reason. Because this is just, it's so weird to not, I don't know what I was going to say, but I'm just saying we can pray, but the correct answer, the humane answer, and the righteous answer is right, so obvious, but they keep missing it. It's like they don't even see it. It's like they're not seeing it, and they just keep veering off, like it's invisible, like it's not even there. And then when they attack the Jews or BB or whatever, it's so weird. I think it's God shielding their eyes to pause the timing for his prophecy. He's timing out his prophecy. What is it? Biding time, where he's like, okay, let me do this step by step here. Because if it all went perfectly and you just killed the bad guys and everything is this, he's like, no, it's not time yet for that to happen. So he's doling it out. What is that term? You're doling it out. And because to me, it seems like they totally did sleight of hand, whatever that magic trick is, where they do a sleight of hand. It's like we were talking about Reza 1 minute, and then the next we're talking about regime. And then we forgot all about Reza because they gave this big giant explosion of bells and whistles in front of us. So Reza kind of it jarred us out of sense. We got jarred by whatever happened, that we forgot about Reza for the minute. And then by the time we were involved with this other sleight of hand, we still didn't go back to what about Reza. So to me, I think that God can shield our eyes. God can give us a forgetfulness, like we forgot about, hey, what about Reza? I mean, I don't know. It's so, okay, well, I'm excited one way or another. I'm excited. I hope this is some kind of a war game, or not only that, it's a pause because of this election, which is so far away. And also it's also could be a pause because there's so many different connections. That area over there that is infested with terrorist cells is like a nasty spider web and you pull one part of it, which is Iran, and they're not, and it's not an easy, you pull it and it tangles, and it's not as smooth, so you have to then say, wait a minute, let's knot it out, like when you're brushing tangled hair. It's like you got to do gently, gently, little by little, because, yeah, I guess, because of all these factors involved. So, all right, well, that's it. Okay, bye.